Hello everyone, welcome to your lecture on youth, media and violence. This lecture is part of your paper on youth, media and society. This lecture will introduce you to the relationship between violent media, content and its impact on youth. This lecture will also help to understand what kind of violent messages are circulated in different forms of media and how do they affect the youth behavior. The media has been a boon in many ways, but in contrary, it has been a curse, particularly for the young generation. This has been debated for decades for its effects of inculcating violence among the youth. Anderson and Bushman in 2001 argued that the media violence has been affecting the children and adolescents in the same way as the smoking does to one's health. In fact, this has been true as many researchers have proved the violent effect of media on children. The villainous portrayal of characters in television, in comic books and films has all led to the violent behavioral changes among the vulnerable youth. The violent media has always been the source of pushing the aggression level among the youth, with films and now television series being the most potent ones to do the psychological damage to the youth of this world. The study of effects of violent media content and its effects on youth basically tries to understand the correlation between the violent media content, particularly in television, films, video games, and also on different platforms available on internet. Almost all the genres of media ranging from cartoons to films, newspapers, violent music, computer games, television serials, and nowadays the access to internet through either computer or cell phone have contributed to the speculation that the violent message on media have a role to play in the consumers of the violent media content to become more and more violent and aggressive. The entire range of research on violence and youth is based on theories of social learning and social cognition. These theories were developed by the Albert Bandura in 1965 and 1986 respectively. Social learning theory posits there the behavior is nothing but a learned response that results from the observation that are made in the world, whereas the social cognitive theory says that behavior is more a choice than a response to the environment, and that the behavior is influenced by several cognitive, motivational and emotional behaviors. Social learning theory also says that the children and youth learn after observing the behavior of the others, and the process is referred to as observational learning. The theory suggests behaviors are maintained that the tools of media like television, comic books, video games, internet, newspapers do provide youth with unlimited number of opportunities for observational learning as young people learn these violent behavior through observation. The theory also postulates how they learned over a period of time. The theory also explains how media provide direct experience of both reinforcements as well as punishments and maintain learned behavior, especially in video games and in films. Also entails us how good things are rewarded and how bad things are punished. The theory was revised by Bandura in 1986 and he focused on explanation of behavior and explained it in three key indicators of behavioral, personal and environmental factors. He explained behavioral factors as previously acquired actions that are available to individuals. The individual's expectations, beliefs, perceptions, intentions and desires consist of personal factors that are responsible for the violent aggression, whereas environmental factors are the influences of friends, family and other social aspects of life. As social learning theory has unidirectional effects, the social cognition theory posits bidirectional effects with respect to behavior, environment and motivation. The theories have a profound impact on the literature concerning affect studies and forms a base for the research on violent media content and its effects on youth and children. Increasing with the boom of digital media, as more and more children are coming in the contact of violent media content at relatively younger age, and the time spent with these media tools is becoming more and more. So it is necessary to study and revise the effect traditions, especially in developing societies like India, where technological boon and media literacy gap is over deep and widening. Media violence and youth violence, the youth is spending more and more time with new media technologies, and several scholars like Friedman, Savage and Olson have suggested that violence is becoming a major component of media content. But the violent crimes among youth have been declined as the violence portrayed in media at the end is shown being punished and hardly makes much difference. However, it has been shown that aggression has a direct relation with violent media content. The exposure of violent content certainly led to the violence approving normative attitudes among youth and now violent content of any kind is accepted with ease. It has been found that as the children turn to teen years, the violent behavior with relation to violent media content become more and less consistent. Although the scholars do argue that the decline does not point to causal effect and state that this observation argues against harmful effects of violent media content and its impact on youth and young people. With the advent of PlayStation video games, the violence has reached new heights for those who spend hours while playing such violent games. The media can't shy away as has sprouted a violent culture among the youth in order make profit. There are a number of media that has exposed the young generations to violent and aggressive culture. The aggressive behavior can be categorized into three types: physical aggression, relational aggression, and verbal aggression. However, in order to study the media effect on the behavioral changes among the youth, particularly the violence culture, we will take all the media one by one and study how these have contributed towards the aggressive behavior among its consumers. Comics. If we will discuss about the comics, comics are written keeping in mind the age of its readers, with content ranging from mild violence to extreme and gore. The genres are also varied, like crime, science fiction, horror, humor, and the ones with the adult content, say pornographic. The use of pictures and drawings left an indelible impact on the reader's mind, as one picture is worth 1,000 words. If we talk about India, the sexual violence depicted in most of the Hindi comics in India has resulted in the cultivation of sexual violence among the youth and young generation. In the Western world, crime and horror comics have influenced the young minds with the content of blood and gore depicted in a considerable amount. Music violence. India has been witnessing the evolution of this kind of violent music over the past few years, and now with the popularization of rap culture in the Indian musical industry, today's youth is more influenced by the likes of so many rap singers. These have made their reputation with their vulgar and violent lyrics and have the greatest of following among the youth generation of India. Today's youth is more influenced by the likes of rap culture. In the West, Eminem, Snoop Dogg and 50 Cent brought the gangster rap genre into the musical industry. Violent musical video and suicide in the current context of digital world. Internet platforms like YouTube are easily accessible and school children, in order to showcase their so-called swag, that is the gift of rap culture, tends to indulge in the acts of violence depicted in the musical videos of these rappers. These videos have also been the major cause of suicide among the adolescents. These videos can range from rap, heavy metal, as well as the sad ones. Violent video games. The video games have taken to our drawing rooms like an epidemic. Children spend hours playing these games and are exposed to the behavioral changes according to the kind of games they play. The first violent game, Spacewar, was introduced in 1962, where two spaceships battled it for the survival. The graphics used were so spike that the game became an instant hit of that time. Similarly, as the technology evolved, games come with more real-life graphics, and games like Resident Evil and Death Race became a new range among the youth. However, Death Race game was so violent in its nature that it was soon pulled from the market. Grand Theft Auto, based on the vehicle theft and killings and traffic violation, was also banned from selling. Even today, video games with violent content are the most selling in the market. Cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is a new rage and India is witnessing it more than any other country, with the trolls ready to abuse, spread rumors, defame you digitally, leads to violent aggression in the victim response. Staub in 2007 argued that even a small intimidation can lead to psychological pain for the cyber bullied person. In India, the rate of cyberbullying is on an abrupt rise as the trolls come out of nowhere and start name calling and accusing you on social media. Violence in traditional screen media. Today's youth has grown up watching series of television programs depicting violence, movies based on violence where villains are being beaten and killed by the hero, television series like Game of Thrones, Spartans, and many others have shown blood gore. It has become a Herculean task for us to prevent our children from the bloody violence and sexual content based screen media. The names of the on-screen media series that have been mentioned above are filled with full of blood and violent sexual content. Not only are these, even the comedy-based series are full of violence in one sense or the other, where the main artist is seen humiliating the junior artist in the show. The content is being shown in terms of humor, but that sometimes turns out to be violent humor. This is the today's scenario of the on-screen media. Houston in 1992 added that youth will witness more than 8,000 murders and more than 1 lakh acts of violence until they finish their elementary education. Not only this, the adolescents are exposed to violence even during the commercials. In the recent times, commercials like Dew, Thumbs Up, and many such others show a good amount of violence in their content. Violence on new channels. Has been a new trend adopted by the new channel anchors. The news debates have become a wrestling ground with the anchor holding the charge. The use of language and accusations being hurled at each other in such a violent way has totally changed the way a news debate has to be conducted. Also, the news reports related to deaths, sexual assaults, war reporting has also exposed the viewers, particularly the young children, to violent aggression. The excessive coverage of the terror group like ISIS has already lured youth from the European countries to join the cadres of this deadly terror outfit. The graphics and contents used by the new channels of brutal killings has been a continuous issue of whether to broadcast such barbaric acts or not. Graphics and violence, the more the quality of graphics depicted in a violent scene, the higher it affects the children. When it comes to cartoons and animated movies, because of their limited blood and gore, the viewers tend to overlook their violent content. Glamorization of violence. The way the violence is being depicted is also a major cause of influencing the young minds. The glamorized violence due to an attractive and charming appearance is easily being conceived by the youth habituation to media violence. When a person is exposed to excessive viewing of, say, violence through media, an individual's responsiveness to this violent media decreases. This repeated exposure to the violent media tends to exile less. It implies that youth watching television in excess tends to become less physiologically aroused to a violent movie than other youth. Desensitization to media violence. Desensitization refers to condition where youth become less affected by the violence that is happening in the real world. Media induced desensitization has got 4 different types: behavioral, cognitive, emotional, and physiological. Becoming fearful at a time when the world has become a place where we are witnessing acts of violence on daily basis tends to instill fear among children and adolescents as well. The images of recent London terror attacks in the news channels created an environment of fear and despair among the children. Conclusion. Summing up this lecture, we hope that you have understood that exposure to the violent media in the form of television, films, video games, and music certainly increases the level of aggressive behavior among the youth, both in immediate as well as long-term context. Surveys have revealed that the modern media is filled with excessive violence, and also children and youth spend a lot of time consuming this violent media. The study of youth media and violence basically analyzes the correlation between prevalence of violent content in media and its effect on real world aggression exhibited by youth who consume violent content on media. Their tradition of affect studies has been one of the most researched areas, but there are several scholars who have argued that the research in media affect studies has several methodological issues, and that all the findings that have been concluded so far have an element of exaggeration. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. For more details, please read the e-text of this lecture properly and attempt the questions in the end. Thank you.